So like I said, I'm really anxious to get back into the studio to record. Hi.
Here we are.
All right, great. So right now we have Martin and Emily Hale joining, and thank you guys so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's so fun to see you guys. I know we talked about having you on the podcast.
Yes.
And so I was just saying, we can't get in the studio obviously right now. So thank you for being brave, because usually it's an easy sell. It's an easy sell with the podcast, because I'm like, well, it's not live and it's just audio. So it's like the guests are like, okay, I can do that. Well, this is obviously the total opposite. It is live and it's video too, but it's really fun. I'm glad that everyone is able to see you guys as well. So thank you so much.
Well, you remember when you asked me, I was like, oh, live?
Right. I'm like, no, it's not live. Don't worry, it's not live. It can be edited. It's fine. But so that was my way of throwing you in. That's so funny. So I'm really glad that you guys are here, and I wanted to talk to you guys about your story and your journey with adoption, and specifically international adoption. Mm-hmm. So we'll just kind of start talking about that. What's your background a little bit, and maybe just tell us, what led you to want to go that route?
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess it starts with me, because adoption was something I had thought about from, I wouldn't say a really young age, but, maybe like teenager and a little bit later. I just, for some reason, always thought that I wanted to adopt. So when we started dating, it was something that we talked about pretty early on, just throwing the idea out there. And I don't think Martin had ever really thought about it like I had, but right away he was just like, yeah, I would definitely be open to that. So that was kind of how it started for us. We talked about it, way back then, and then just kind of started becoming a reality.
And then what maybe led you to, the international part of things? Because that's a whole nother, side of adoption, obviously. It's a lot of different, total different journey, I would imagine.
Yes, totally different. I think just it came very naturally. Like I've always loved just everything international, like other countries. And I work as a social worker with refugees that come here from all over the world to be resettled. So I guess kind of it was all that I ever thought about. Like it was, it was the only option from the beginning. And now that we've done 2 international adoptions, we have talked about, oh, maybe in the future we'll do foster care, kind of see where it goes from there. But I guess starting out, it was just natural to go the international route. We had been to a lot of different countries and done missions work, and we had been to India. So we kind of knew the situation in India, that there were a lot of kids, I think the most orphans in the world, and a lot of girls. The orphanages are filled with girls. So we had been there, we had seen that, we loved India, and so it just kind of happened that way.
Yeah, and I'll just add that, it's really just a blessing to be able to be in a position to give back. Both of us, have jobs and both have education, and most of the U.S. adoptions that happen here in the U.S. are, from U.S. Moms, U.S. families, people that, hooked on drugs, birth moms that, aren't ready to have their kid. And that's the vast majority of adoptions. So the international route is more costly, it's more time consuming. And so because of that, a lot of people do it, but it's as a percentage is much less than domestic. So we wanted to go that route because we could potentially be, changing the direction of a little child's life.
Right. Well, that you are for sure. Obviously, that's evident just from what I have seen. Even just your posts, you can tell. And we'll get into that a little bit more in a few minutes. But just how happy that they are for sure, and you guys. So
yeah,
yeah. So with your first daughter, tell us a little bit about her. Just the journey, to adopt her, and how old, and all that kind of stuff.
You know the numbers, so that was...
Yeah, I know the numbers. I want to say it was July of 2016 is when we started the process, and took about 13 months to pick her up. It was I think August of the following year when we picked her up.
Wow.
When we got matched with her, she was I think 7 months old, and then it took 6 months from match to pick up. So she was about a year and a month when we picked her up. But she was tiny. She was like 14 pounds and like size of it like a small
When you
infant.
picked her up, she was that size?
She was tiny. Yeah. So small. Yeah.
So what kind of, if any, you know, between the time you were matched and the time you picked her up, kind of contact did you have, or did you have any?
It was pretty much maybe like once a month we would get some kind of update from her orphanage. So, you know, sometimes that would be a picture, sometimes that would be a short video clip. Sometimes it would be updated like measurements and weight and height. And we were lucky to have that because, you know, now that we know a lot of people in this, you know, adoption world, some people, I mean, they get no contact, you know, or very little contact. Some people only get one picture, which is the initial one that's sent with the referral. So I would say about monthly we got dates.
Yeah, and you were asking a little bit about just her in general. And so we reached out. So we kind of knew that we wanted to adopt, kind of like when Emily was saying, when we started to try and, you know, have a family, it wasn't happening like on the dime like we thought. It was two healthy adults with nothing wrong with us. So we just kind of took that as the Lord saying like, hey, you got to adopt. Like we want you to adopt, and we want you to do it now. Because in our book, in our mind, we always said, oh, well, we'll adopt when I've had 2 or 3 of my own kids, and then I'll adopt. And the Lord's like, well, you don't know what you would do if you didn't, if I wasn't involved. So you're going to adopt right now. And so that's what we kind of heard. And I also wanted to just let folks know that'll watch this is whenever Westerners adopt from overseas, whether that's China or India or pretty much anywhere in Africa, you typically have to adopt a child with some type of special need. Special need could be as small as a birthmark on the face. Special need could be their darker skin, but also a special need could be severe as, you know, HIV or a birth defect or heart condition or Downs or whatever, because basically the healthy children are for the in-country domestic adoption there. So you kind of put a list together of what type of special needs you're willing to gender, and then they match you from there, and you say, oh, well, you know, how severe is this, you know, special need, whether it's, you know, Downs or heart condition or some type of physical ailment. And, you know, everyone wants them to be, you know, as least severe as possible, but you never know what you're getting into. And even if it's not on the list, obviously they've been in an orphanage for many years, and so there's the other things along with that. So, but I just wanted to let people know that.
It's very much a faith journey.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because we didn't know anything.
They may not even tell the whole story of a special need, right? They may try to, like, you know, kind of downplay it a little bit.
Yeah.
And
So
you don't know.
Yeah, we didn't know anything about special needs, or even like the first time filling out the list, like what are we open to? We're like, we don't even know what half of this stuff is. Definitely a faith journey of like just taking one step at a time. And when we got her referral and saw her picture, I mean, I don't think we needed to read anything. We saw her picture and we were like, yep, that's our daughter.
That's it. And that 6 months had to seem like forever, right?
Yes, that's the hardest part. Once you're matched and you have pictures, you know their face, and you know more about them, and you're like, that's my child. They're in an orphanage. You know, that is the hardest part. And
probably some worry too, I would imagine, like, what if it doesn't go through, or what if there's a snag or something like that? You know, I'm sure you had all those kind of thoughts. That would be totally normal, you know, running through your head during that time. Like, want to get there and get her.
Yeah, and that definitely happens. And also, you know, even kids that are relatively healthy passing away. You know, we've had multiple friends now, you know, being in this process that their kids that they were matched with didn't even have severe special needs. Definitely nothing, you know, that they would expect them to pass away from. And just, you know, you never know what could happen. And being in an orphanage with so many other kids, and one kid gets sick and they all get sick. And so, you know, there's been multiple families that we know of that their kids have passed away while they've been in the process. So it's, yeah, you never know what could happen. So definitely. Yeah.
So how old is she now?
Our first daughter is, she'll be 4 in July.
Okay. And so then when did you decide, hey, we want to do this again? Was it like right away or?
I would say right away. I mean, our whole experience, even being in India for the 2 or 3 weeks that we were there, and just everything about meeting her, it was almost like instant bonding, which, you know, that isn't the case with everyone. And we know that, and we had to do all the trainings and, you know, everything about trauma and bonding and attaching, but everything about her adoption was very magical. And I don't want to say that that's, you know, the norm, but it was with her. Everything was pretty seamless, and we love India, so we loved being there in country and everything like that. So I think it was pretty immediate when we got home that we started talking about it. Okay. We reached out to our adoption agency, and they, you know, kind of encouraged us to wait for the year marker that she was home for a year, just so that there wouldn't be any like, you know, this is just a honeymoon stage and you get right back into the process. And it is a lot of work and a lot of paperwork. So we did end up waiting, I think, exactly a year that Anjali was home before we officially started again.
Okay. Did it take longer the second time? Was it like the process similar or different?
It took a little bit longer. There was no like breaks for having already done it.
Yeah, I was going to say,
people are like, oh, wasn't it easier the second time? You have to start all over. You have to do the study process with a social worker. It ended up being longer than our first adoption. So it wasn't any easier, unfortunately.
Worse. They added some extra.
Yeah, they did.
They added a psychological exam that wasn't the first one. So we both had to go to a counselor or whatever. Psychologist and do 2-hour long exams on each one of us. They're asking questions about our past and all this other stuff.
Okay.
Just somewhat normal.
Yeah.
So the same kind of thing. Now, how long was it before you got matched the second time?
So the whole process, the second time, took 15 months.
Okay.
And we got matched in April of last year.
Tomorrow is the day that a year ago that we saw her picture for the first time.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So and it was 6 months the first time from match date to pick up. Yeah. What was it the second time?
December. 8 months.
8 months.
Okay, so it was a little longer.
Yeah.
And then you went, and did just the two of you go to pick her up?
My mom actually came with us this time, and then our first daughter, Anjali. So we had a whole crew with us this time.
That's so fun. And what was she thinking? Like, did she understand as much as she could for her age? But
oh, she's super
smart.
She's
really, really smart and perceptive. So,
we
talked about it. She's so smart. We talked about it a lot before we went and showed her pictures. And we have like a recap video from her adoption that we watched. And so she was really excited about it. She talked about it a lot and like told the people at her preschool, about it. And it also just, was by chance, or, we say not by chance, that both of the girls are from the same state in India. Okay. So Anjali is from like a bigger city. And then Priyanka's orphanage was like a 4 or 5 hour drive from that big city. So we ended up going back to the same city that Anjali was adopted from. So on this trip, we went back to her orphanage and visited. And we brought them like a photo book and got to like tell them thank you. And Anjali got to go and see them. And I mean, she mostly just had fun playing with the kids, and she got to sit and eat lunch with them.
Yeah.
I don't know how much she remembered, but you know, all the caretakers, of course, remembered her and were really excited to see her. So she did great while we were there. She loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did really good.
Yeah, she's definitely type A.
And how have the two of them? Yeah, how have the two of them been getting along?
Yeah, they're only 10 months apart, so.
Yeah, they're very close in age.
How old are they? How much apart?
10 months.
10 months apart.
Okay, so yeah.
Yeah, they're very
close.
Yeah, yes, exactly. They could be in the same grade, which is crazy.
No, but they're probably, are they having fun together for the most part?
It was rough the first few months. Yeah, love-hate relationship. It was a big adjustment for Anjali, our first daughter. You know, she was used to being the only one and everything, you know, revolving around her. So while we were in India, it was really good. They did pretty good together. When we got home, you know, I think it was like, oh, this is real. And, you know,
you're in my space here.
Yes.
This is my space. Yeah.
Yeah. They're the same age. So they're kind of playing with the same toys. You know, it's not an infant that she's, you know, helping change diapers and, you know, playing with her. It's like they're wanting the same toys. So that was a big adjustment. Actually, just these past few weeks of staying home, I really think that they've bonded a lot more, that we're not playing with friends and not going on play dates. It's kind of like having a built-in friend. And I've seen
it's like play with each other. That's it. That's all you got.
Yes. And I think they really have bonded more and have been playing together a lot more because they don't have anybody, they don't have cousins around and friends and play dates. So I think it's been good for their relationship.
That's nice. Now, I know that you guys, it seems like you do try to do a lot of like clothing, different things like that. Like you're trying to really kind of do that for them. Am I accurate on that?
Yeah, it's pretty easy for us because we love Indian food. It's our favorite kind of food. So we eat a lot of Indian food, which they both love. I've learned to make some of their like favorite, you know, dishes. And we love getting dressed up and wearing, you know, cultural outfits and, you know, just being involved in different holidays. And we have a community here in Cleveland of other adoptive families. So we do a lot with them. And
just another thing, like you were just talking about her and how she's doing and going back to India. Like, it's funny because like maybe 25 or 30 years ago, maybe, you know, it was more accustomed to like, oh, don't tell the child they're adopted if you can get away with it. Like if they look like you. I think maybe back then, and the training now is all like, hey, start them off early, read adoption stories to them, read books about adoption. And people are like, are you going to tell them that they're adopted? I'm like, they already know. We've been talking about it since the beginning. They're Indian, you know, either one of us, you know what I mean? So like, we're like, we're like, of course they're going to know. And of course they already know. And Anjali, sometimes she'll just come out of the blue and she'll say, thank you for picking me up from my orphanage, Mom. And we're just like, oh, okay, you're welcome.
So
you know?
And she'll talk about, she calls it her baby home, and she'll talk about it. When I was at my baby home, and she'll ask me, did I do this? Did I do this?
Home.
And I'm like, well, I don't know what you did, you know? So they're aware. They're aware of it. Yeah.
That's good. I think it just makes it like, I would think that it just makes it like it's something to be proud of, which it is. There's no reason to keep that secret. We're proud of it. You're our kids, and this is just this is how it is, you know.
Yes, we plan to go back regularly, you know, every few years, go back to India. So that's just a part of, you know, they're familiar with it and going back to visit and
what kind of advice would you give someone who's considering it? Maybe they're considering adoption in general. Maybe they don't know, the process, or should they try to do international, all that. Cause I know you said, it's a lot. It's well worth it. 100,000,000% worth it, but it's a lot. It can be intimidating, I would imagine, the process.
The biggest thing that I think that holds people back is they're like, oh, well, the cost, like, how am I going to afford that? And like a couple of things that people need to keep in mind is, like, first of all, there's like, I don't know how much it is, maybe like $13,000 or $12,700, something like that, adoption tax credit. So you get a lot of that money back the next year after your adoption is finalized. So you might have to come out of pocket, figure out some way to front some of those funds. But a lot of times you get it back the next year when you go to file your taxes. The other thing is, both our first adoption and our second adoption, we just filled out a bunch of grants applications. Just like when you're applying for scholarships at school, some kids are like, oh, I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to get anything. Well, you're not going to get anything if you don't apply. So we applied for like 10 or 15.
That's great to know that there are even grants available for that.
Yeah, for international and domestic.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they revolve around if you're adopting a child with a special need, which of course is all international adoptions. So we were able to get significant dollars, thousands of dollars from grants. And then we always did kind of like a fundraiser where we were either selling Christmas ornaments or selling, some kind of fundraiser. And people always give more than whatever the fundraising element is. So if you say, hey, I'm selling this Christmas ornament for $10, people give you $50 or $200.
Yeah.
So we don't have 10 checks for anything. And so, but the Lord provided the money through all these different avenues.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And then as far as the paperwork and the process, just what would you say about that? What kind of advice would you give about that? To stick with it?
You definitely got to be organized.
That's a lot.
Yeah, they call it a paper chase, and you got to get marriage certificates, birth certificates, copies of driver's license and passports, and you got to get letters of recommendation from people, and then reference letters, and you got to just write about your household and who you are and why you want to adopt. And it's good stuff. It's a lot of stuff, and a lot of that can be used for the grant making process. In a perfect world, I could get all that stuff together in say 2 to 4 weeks, but then it's just a matter of waiting on, kind of the process to work its way through the government here and the government over there. But as long as you're organized, it's not hard. It's just a matter of doing it, going through with it. But it's like,
and I know you mentioned you have a group there that you're involved with. And I would imagine, someone maybe just starting out, that would be a great resource, something like that. You guys just, you can find things like that on the internet now, on Facebook, things like that, where people that have already gone through and like, hey, I need some advice here, or what do I do about this or that? So I think now even, more because of the internet, you're able to find kind of people to help with that.
Yeah, both our adoption agency and like online, like international adoption support groups have been amazing. Yeah,
that's good.
It is a lot. People say it's like reviewing your whole life. You have to have a social worker come over multiple times and do a home study process. But like I've heard people say about labor and delivery afterwards, you forget all of that.
Yeah.
I think until we started the second process, I had forgotten how much.
That's so funny.
It's just constant, and it's a lot. But you kind of forget that, like you said, it's worth it. So you just do it, and you take it step by step, and you do have to be organized and keep everything together. But if you have a good agency that you're signed on with, that helps too, because they'll send you reminders and they'll have lists of like, check this off, here's what you need to do next. So it's not like you're just trying to figure it out on your own.
Alone. Yeah. And how do you said, if you have a good agency, how does someone know, like, you know, because I know there are some out there that maybe aren't the best.
Yeah.
What would maybe someone maybe look for to know that this is going to be a great agency to work with?
I think definitely doing your homework and like researching everything you can about the agency, calling them with, you know, and having a bunch of questions to ask them, asking them if you can connect with other families that have gone through them and asking them questions. You know, if you get involved in these different Facebook groups, you can easily, you know, get a lot of information on different agencies. But one thing is, you know, there is no perfect agency. So based on someone's experience, you will get, you know, all the negatives and positives. So I think, you know, mainly just doing your homework and asking a lot of questions.
And we actually started with sitting down with a couple of different families that had done international adoptions. One had done India, and one had done Bulgaria. Thank you. And we were just talking to them about their process and how it went and what were the expectations. And they kind of just set some groundwork for us before we delved right in. So we just had dinner with them when you can have dinner with people again. And we just got our questions answered.
Yeah, that's great. It's great advice. And they are both just, they're cute as can be. They're adorable. And, yeah, I mean, they really are. And I love seeing, you know, your posts because they just look so happy. And like I said, you're always doing something, you know, with them, fun with them. And you can just tell that they're thriving. And so that's great. You know,
yeah, they are amazing. They're amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think you'll do it again?
I hope so.
Good.
He just brought that up recently. I can't remember.
Okay.
I can't remember what it was. Oh, we watched a movie, you know, watching a lot more TV these days.
Right, of course.
We watched a movie and it was a little bit, you know, tacky movie, but it was it about adoption? It wasn't about adoption. It was
sort of.
Yeah. It didn't say what country it was in, but anyways, it was kind of about adoption, and we watched it, and afterwards he was like, "Oh, we're adopting again," and I was like, "Oh, okay." So
it's happening.
We'll see.
That's awesome. Well, I hope that does. Thank you guys so much. I think it's really great to just hear your story, and you gave a lot of great advice, and it was really, really, really great and fun for me to hear the story and just the process. And like I said, they're beautiful, and so congratulations.
Thank you so much for having us. We can't wait to see how this turns out. Like once everything is edited and, you know, you put a filter over us.
It's going to be awesome.
Make it look like I have makeup on. And...
Totally. You don't need it. You don't need it. I actually have like a normal shirt, but I have pajama pants on.
It's okay. That's okay.
My daughter's like, "Are you wearing pajama pants?" I'm like, "Yeah, no one can tell."
Yeah,
right?
no one's gonna know.
Fine. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thanks so much.
Thank you.